any questions? We've been quiet again. We have a quiet lot here. All right. There's always time at the end anyway. So, all right. So just an overview. Last week, as you know, we looked at anxiety and the types of anxiety. I'm hoping that you can remember them, because if we're in the classroom, I'd be asking you this. What are the 6 different types? So just try and think of them in your mind. Like we had the generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder. So the generalized more about people being really nervous about lots of different things and worrying and, over worrying and to the point where it really overtakes their life. We looked at social anxiety, where people are sort of apprehensive about going out and, because of the thought of being judged or that they'll have a panic attack. We looked at post-traumatic stress disorder, which I put into 2 components. There was the PTSD from like a one-off event that's traumatic, like an accident or being involved in a terrorist attack, a bushfire. And then there was the complex trauma that, happens in early childhood that actually affects people's personality later on. And then we talked about OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and how we use it very liberally. Oh, you've got OCD, look at you, your desk's so tidy and everything's, you've always got everything in place. But no, it's really very much deeper than that, and very much can be really interrupt someone's life through checking behaviours constantly, hand washing, just things like that. It depends what their phobia's about. Anyway, I won't go on too much more. There is a couple more, but we probably should move on. So we're going to talk today about how anxiety can impact on the workplace, and we'll talk about some strategies. And a lot of this you'll already be aware of, but hopefully I can throw in a few bits of information or recommendations as well that might be helpful. Because I'm aware that you guys are this is your craft. I'm the mental health nurse with lots of mental health experience, but I haven't actually worked as a person helping a person to gain a job. So, you lot are actually the ones that probably know a lot more than me about that. So just, again, what is anxiety? It's our body's natural response to stress, that fear of apprehension of what's to come. We know that we all experience it, that people can actually, have varying, you can have a one-off anxiety experience or a depressive experience, but you can also have many years of feeling anxiety as well. It can be useful because it can be protective in terms of keeping us on the front foot. And as I said, it can vary from mild uneasiness through to panic attacks. So just some facts I wanted to share. That anxiety is actually, and depression, because can I just say anxiety and depression often go hand in hand. If somebody's suffering with depression, they may develop anxiety symptoms as a part of that depression. And also people who are debilitated or really distressed by anxiety may become depressed because of that anxiety that they're feeling. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword there. But they are clinical conditions. They're diagnosable clinical conditions it's called the I've lost my train of thought. But anyway, it's a diagnostic manual that doctors use, and it has all the criteria for what is anxiety, what is depression. And just remembering too that anxiety is when it sustains for longer than 6 months, it's interrupting the person's life. So it's not just getting anxious about going for an interview. It's actually more enduring than that. So it's different to I shouldn't say just workplace stress, because workplace stress can be really stressful and really debilitating to some people who end up maybe off work and on work cover and then suffer some trauma from that. So, but in general, the workplace stress that most of us would have been through at some point is different. So as mentioned, it can be a one-off or repeated episodes of severe anxiety. And over 2 million people in Australia, so 1 in 5 women and 1 in 8 men will experience anxiety. And my suggestion will be that it's higher than that, but just not picked up. And work can actually be a really significant part of recovery and have really good outcomes for someone with anxiety, because you can manage it. It can be treated. So working with someone, helping someone with anxiety, it can improve their quality of life and well-being. It can aid in recovery. So it can really help them recover and reduce their symptoms. Not always, you don't always get over it, but or recover completely, but reducing, learning to manage symptoms, and work can be very, very helpful for that. Helping to provide a daily routine with structure, that's good for everybody. It gives them meaning, purpose, and it also gives opportunity for social inclusion and being able to have, maybe make some new friends, or at least have a chat in the cuppa room, or you might meet someone on the train, because not everybody has friends and family. There's a lot of people that live alone and don't really have much in their life. So this could make have a huge impact on more positive stuff in their life. And also just to be financially secure, having more money than what they were getting before. So all of those things. We all need a home, we all need to have connections, and we need to be able to afford, stuff, food and housing, and, hopefully some nice things as well. So some barriers for people with anxiety working. The stigma, of course, can be quite scary for some people. People sometimes think that, people are going to find out about their mental illness, that then they'll be judged. And even though I think we're much better at mental health now, I still feel there is people that think differently about people who have mental health problems. And that's a matter of education and us sticking up for that and saying, it's really important not to talk about them or make fun of them, or, and calling that out, really important. So lack of planning. So if you're trying to get someone into work and the planning's not thorough, it wouldn't take much with a lot of people to throw them right out and sort of go, oh no, I just can't do it. Confidentiality fear. So we need to know how much of their mental illness that they're happy to share, maybe with their supervisor or whoever's going to be working with them. So I think it's important that they are comfortable that the whole of the area that they're working is not going to know about it. They might be uncertain about how will they be supported in the workplace. Am I going to have someone checking on me? Is there an open door policy that I can go to if I'm feeling, uncomfortable, or, something's not right. And fear of not being able to have future career prospects. So someone might be quite, might have come from quite a skilled background, has had maybe some sort of a, depression or anxiety and had to take time off work and start lower, but may be anxious that that's where they're going to stay because of their mental illness. So how can it impact on the workplace? So the person, if they're coming to work anxious, might have difficulty focusing or concentrating on tasks. That could also be due to fatigue and tiredness through not sleeping well. You know what it's like when you try to concentrate and you're tired, it's quite hard. Becoming frustrated or angry with tasks or even with people. The video we watched last week, the woman there told us how when she becomes really anxious, she gets angry. So she doesn't mean to, but she does. That's how she kind of, manages, not manages it, doesn't really manage it. It comes out with anger. They could be tearful or emotional, sometimes arriving late. That might be either through through not sleeping properly, or through being too anxious to get out of the house and really stressing about something that might be happen at work. Or you could find they start to take days off, and that's something that needs to be addressed as well. Tired and fatigued, and just avoiding being around colleagues. And this may be because, they could have a bit of a social phobia, or they could feel like, people are perhaps judging them and know that they're not, they're picking up that they're not, right, that sort of stuff. They might find it hard to meet reasonable deadlines and lack confidence. they might find it hard to actually receive constructive feedback because they don't really believe that they're doing things that well. So lots of reassurance might be needed. So loss of confidence can occur through usually through negative thought patterns. And last week we talked about cognitive behavioural therapy and how when we think about people with anxiety often have very negative thoughts. And I feel like the longer people have negative thoughts over time, it does become harder to treat. So it might be that the thought is, I think I went through this last week. It could be something like, say, in the workplace, it might be that I'm not able to carry out this task because, no, hang on, that's not the right one. It might be that people they're feeling like people are, looking at them and judging them, and through those negative thoughts, they then feel hurt, they feel concerned. So their behaviours become, that's what might cause them to retract or not socialise, avoid certain things where they need to be around people. That's just an example. There's lots of different ways that people with anxiety think, and often very, very negative, and they really have to learn to talk to themselves around how rational really is that. And sometimes using substances to cope. So keeping an eye out for people, if they're getting to work late, if they look a bit hungover, or if they, haven't been sleeping, or because as I said last week, using substances might help them at the time. So they might have some cannabis and think, oh yeah, I'm really relaxed and helps me sleep, and but that may actually exacerbate their anxiety later, maybe. Same with alcohol in particular as well. So yeah, that's something that can impact on the workplace if that's not managed. So just obligations through an employer, and I do understand, everyone, that my understanding is you work trying to help someone to get into some successful employment, but you also have to work with the employer. They're also your client. So they have obligations, but also for you, I understand that at times it could be hard to get everything you want or need for your client. It won't always work that way because you can't kind of take over the management, their policies and protocols, things like that. So with work health and safety, just making sure they're eliminating risk as far as is reasonable, and personal information is not shared with anyone else other than the people that it needs to be shared with. And with Fair Work, not taking adverse action because the person has a mental illness. And discrimination, that's really around also Fair Work, really being able to make reasonable adjustments for that person as long as they're still fulfilling their core work requirements. So that's part, of course, as well as policies and procedures and all the governance that goes with that. So pre-commencing a job, so starting at the beginning, I guess, looking at a particular job description and looking at, after meeting that person, looking at their resume, talking to them, is this job actually for them? Can they fulfill? Discussing that with them. You need to talk to them about how much do they want their employer to know, which I mentioned before. How much are you able to disclose? How open do they want to be? There's all the paperwork, and we'll talk about work plan in a minute. Contracts, making sure that's all signed, and a pre-employment visit. I suppose most of you probably do that. I'm not 100% sure. A couple of organisations I've spoken to said they try to do that to kind of, get the person familiar, meet the staff, understand what to expect on day one. And, either do the induction or take home an induction manual, so they can get a bit more information about their workplace. They'll know where their workplace is, so the location, who they're reporting to, what hours they're working. They need to, think, and you might need to help them brainstorm travel arrangements if needed. They might need some coaching around how to get the bus or the train, or, you know, those sorts of things, so that they're ready to do that on day one. They need to understand how to dress, and sometimes people might not have the clothing they need, so there might need to be some support in accessing that. Gosh, even if you go to the op shop, you know, as we all know, you can get some really good stuff there. So being able to, you know, they might be a fella who really does need a haircut to present better. But this is all stuff that I guess happens with most of your clients that, you know, do perhaps have some sort of a disability or mental health problem. And like, you know, someone might stress about, oh, you know, I need to eat at a certain time, and is there a fridge to put my lunch in, or is there somewhere I can go to get, you know, coffee, or do I need to bring my own coffee? Just little things. They seem like little things, but they can be really, really important to someone who is a worrier. I shouldn't say a worrier, because over worries and is anxious a lot. So offering support, validating. So support meaning, when you're talking about support, you're saying, I'm here to help. You know, we're going to meet this, you know, points in time. Please let me know if you know, give me a call, or give the office a call if you need any, you know, if something's happening and you need to talk to me. Validating their concerns. Hang on, I've got to let the dogs in, they're scratching. Stop it. Yeah, so and being open. I think it's important to have, if you can, the conversation about their mental health problem and what doesn't help and what does help, and try and be open, rather than just write down they've got anxiety. What does that actually mean to have anxiety for you? What are the things, because everyone's different, what are the things that we can look at with your anxiety and to help, you know, minimize it as much as we can, and be genuinely interested. If you don't show interest, I feel like, and I'm sure you do, sometimes we can get a bit busy and distracted. To an anxious person, they might see that as not being interested. So you know, it might not be deliberate, but just being very aware of your body language. And you need to really show it, and listening to clients' views and taking appropriate action where you can. And I'm just going to show you a little video about listening.
You know, and sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail.
See, you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just
don't
try to see things my way. Do I have to?
Right. Where are we? Yeah, so validation. That's all she wanted, was validation. And we do tend to, I think, as human beings that we are, we do tend to sometimes try to fix and advise, and sometimes just listening is so important, and validating. That must be hard. This must be hard for you when that happens, that kind of thing. So that was just a little illustration of that. And just thinking about, this is a communication model by Meribin, and he talks about the most important part of communication being non-verbal. So he thinks that 7% is actually what you say, 55% is what you how you say it, and 38% is your how do you say, how you present yourself, like so non-verbal body language, tone of voice, sorry. So how you're acting, your tone of voice is much more, it has much more impact than actually what you say. It's hard to believe, but just for example, I guess if you're telling someone or you're talking through their work plan or something and you're saying it quite directly, like on Monday you are going to be going here, you arrive there and you're going to be met by, rather than right, so on Monday this is the address you've got to go to, so there can be, that's probably a bad example, but and your body language, are you looking at them, are you interested, like I spoke about before. So yeah, watching out for the visual stuff, how your body language is and how you speak to the person is really, really important in your relationship with them. So I'm gathering everybody does a plan, and there's lots, probably like any organisation, there's probably lots of boxes to tick and lots of things to think about. But I think the main thing with the plan is that we can't assume that we know what the person needs. We need to adapt the plan to that person, which means they need to be very much a part of that plan. And hopefully whoever their supervisor or manager is going to be would be part of that as well. It's important if the person is happy for them to understand what's going on for them. So yeah, be open and understanding. They might need to have access to mentoring and coaching as well. They might need, I'm sure there's usually things like regular catch-ups with the supervisor, or maybe an open door policy that they can go into if they're not, if they need to talk about stuff. And also, of course, regularly reviewing, and of course, if things change, to go back to that plan and have a look and see what could be different. So there could be, sorry, I've got more to say about this. Yeah, so it might be around, at times there needs to be like those, adjustments need to be made because maybe someone's had a bit of a setback. It could be that the location's not working for them. Sometimes, maybe reducing the workload, and someone that I spoke to said that their organisation would sometimes have, if they're not coping too well with certain tasks, that someone might go in and give them a bit of coaching and just work with them for a bit to see if they can get over that hurdle. And modifying tasks. So yeah, as I said, being able to, it might be moving into a different position, or maybe changing slightly the workload that they're doing, but as long as it's fitting in with the position description. All right, so before we have questions, I just want to talk to you about next week, because I want you to be involved in this and I want this to be useful for you. So I want you, if you can, and of course we can't have 22 of them, but it would be really good to maybe even have one from each organisation, or at least from 4 different organisations. Just a couple of paragraphs around someone, totally de-identified, and just, their gender, age, what's their mental health condition, what are their signs and symptoms, and what are some challenges that you might be having with them. And I thought as in groups we could try and nut some of that out and learn from each other as well, because you can all learn from each other. So we wouldn't put the same organisation in the same group. We would put blend people into different groups, so that that can be a learning experience in itself, just by learning from others. Yeah, and then I'll talk about information about services that can help and how we can access them. So I'm really happy for questions now. And I have allowed a few minutes for that. So let's hope that someone does have a question, or I'm very happy for feedback about what I've talked about as well.
So, and we have one here from Christine, how anxiety can impact the workplace really hit home for her. She's experienced all of those in a particular place of employment where she was feeling very unsupported, and had that employer had a better understanding about anxiety in the workplace, the outcome may have been different.
Yeah, really good point. And I actually meant to say that about the workplace. I had it actually in my notes. That it would be good to understand, or to suggest to the employer to actually do education if you know you've got someone coming to work there, or you know there's sort of anxiety or depression within the workplace anyway, to actually run some mental health first aid, and lots of organisations do that. There's a lot that don't as well, because that just gives people, it's a bit like, and that was the other thing I meant to mention, treating it like physical health problems. You know, you're trying to get someone back to work that's had a shoulder reconstruction. What do you have to do to work around that person and help them get to work? And, you know, everybody's great, aren't they? They're like, oh, you're back at work, can I sign your plaster? And it's all great because you can see it. It's a physical problem. But with a mental health problem, you can't see it necessarily. People are very good at hiding their symptoms. So I think that's a really valid point that you brought up, that yes, if more organisations took on mental health education and made it mandatory, like a lot of us have to do first aid. As a nurse, I have to do first aid, you know, physical first aid, as a lot of other people do in different roles. So why not, you know, first aid for mental health problems? Yeah, good point.
If anyone else has got any questions, you can pop it in the chat box and I'm happy to read them out as well.
Yeah. So I hope you're starting to think about any client that you might want to discuss next week. I have got a couple of scenarios, but I'd much rather them be, you know, people that you're, you know, or it might be something in the past that you didn't feel went well, and how could you have done that differently? It might be someone you're currently working with. So I really want you to think about that sort of, you know, what you can contribute to next week, and maybe as a group, because I know we've got quite a lot from, I haven't got it with me now, but there was quite a lot from one particular group. So maybe just one client from your organisation. Yeah. So still no questions?
No, it looks like it's pretty quiet.
Okay. All right. Well, happy for any feedback. If I've missed stuff that you think's important, yeah, and we will have feedback questions next week. You know, there'll be an evaluation to do as well. So if no one's got anything else, we might say goodbye.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you at the next session. As I said, an email will come out with the recording of this session as well. So stay tuned for that. Oh, hang on. Yep, just a thanks from Narelle as well.
Oh, great. Thank you. A few thank yous. Excellent. That's great. So that means you've got to be really good and get that scenario to me, hopefully by next Monday or Tuesday. Be terrific. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.